Hi there, my name is Chris Clark. I've worked in financial services in marketing for many years and have spent time at HSBC and also now a non-executive director of Aviva. So I'm sure many of you out there who are wrestling with marketing programs in the financial services industry have got quite a lot of questions. And we do find ourselves in that cliche of a statement in unprecedented times. So there's so much change going on, and people out there are looking at how that change affects their businesses and how those businesses affect people's lives. And financial services is a pretty important part of most people's lives. But when you look at the pace of change and you look at the kinds of things that are being talked about in terms of change, we're hopefully going to see lots of good things come out of this too. But we've been in a period of time where change has been pretty fast. When you look at how the digital world has changed almost everything we do. When you look at the apps we all build to run our businesses, when you look at the way in which customers interact with us through social media, we've got an incredibly different landscape. And quite a lot of us have adapted very well to it. Some haven't, but at the end of the day, for those who are surviving and for those who are thriving, all of these changes are things that may be the kinds of things you wish to embrace. But in terms of meeting those challenges and starting the process of figuring out what happens next, anyone who's got a crystal ball who thinks they can be clear about what's happening next, well, I'm sort of inclined to think you're probably kidding yourself. But the most important thing to start to consider is your organisation and what it stands for. What are you all about? Because those are the sorts of things that are going to colour the next phase of both marketing and brands. And actually, it's what you do that will colour more around how people see you versus what you say. And your ability to tell your story through the services and customer experiences you offer becomes really, really important. And so today, I want to talk to you a little bit about some things that are worth thinking about, and some of it in the context of the radio media as well, because that has a powerful role to play within a number of our different ways in which we think about marketing and reaching our customers, whether that's through content or whether that's through plain advertising. So you have an astonishing opportunity to tell your story, but you have to go and embrace authenticity. Authenticity is a really important part of what you do, and it's a bit of a sort of hackneyed sort of phrase. But I do remember at a conference being sort of slightly pigeonholed in one of the breaks by somebody from another part of the world who said to me, yes, and I'm working very hard on being authentic. You can't fake this stuff. Being authentic is really who your company is. That is what will colour another slightly overused sense of description, your purpose and your values, which obviously cascade into your brand. But essentially, it is what you're doing and the actions you're taking, and whether or not those are things that your purpose helps drive, whether new products, whether that's new channels, whether that's new ways of thinking about old problems. How do your values as a company help you? And one of the things I think you have is an astonishing choice of places to tell your story these days. Your choices that you make in terms of how you do that are as much as part of the mix as they possibly can be. So what you choose also sends a message, what kinds of ways in which you want to communicate. And the oral media landscape has had a fantastic renaissance in recent times. I think we'd all been sleeping under a rock if we didn't know about, obviously, all of the kind of rise of Audible, the whole world of podcasts, and all of that oral content that is really engaging people across the world. So you have a great opportunity now to tell your story in a richer context. It doesn't just have to be about how you find 30-second sound bites. It is about how you can flex that story across your business-to-business audiences, your business-to corporate audiences. So start to think a little bit wider about how you tell your story. But in terms of framing your story, that's something I'd like to just spend a second or two on. One of the things that I think is very important is that who you ask to help you frame your story. Now, we all go through the standard stuff. There's ad agencies, there's all sorts of people, there's market research. There's also quite a lot often within the insides of companies. So take a little look around where the beating heart of your company lies. I was fortunate in my corporate career to have alongside me a business called First Direct at HSBC. If you wanted to know how First Direct worked, you went straight to the call centre. They were an astonishing group of people who could really let you know what customers were thinking, really let you know where the beating heart of the company lie. So start to look broader about where the places are that you can tell your brand story. And pick agency partners who get it and are happy to sit outside of the 30-second soundbite slice. Those are the kinds of agencies that I think will give you a good kind of service, but also ask you some tougher questions about your business. Pick media partners who are also up for different ways of thinking. And really, really importantly in all of this, find people who want to fuse their kind of programming people with their commercial people, because those are the kinds of companies that have a better chance of being able to tell your story for you. And be clear about what good looks like. One of the things I remember in my time at HSBC was looking at some programs where we were looking to try and get some engagement with a particular types of target audience. And all of a sudden, we had, I think, 3,000 people visit a website. Now, was that good or bad? Well, given that we found out that those 3,000 people were corporate treasurers and we were talking about the internationalization of the Chinese currency, they were very important. So the numbers game is an important one for you to be able to get across and start to really understand. Pure audience is not always the name of the game. It's not a volume game, it's a targeted game. And how you start to think a little bit like that becomes very, very important. And most important of all, when you start measuring, start thinking about how you'd also answer the why question. The why question is really important. I can remember having campaigns by some of our teams that looked at champion challenger things that said, this particular piece of digital copy did better than this piece of digital copy. And I used to sit there and say to them, why? Let's say it was a mortgage ad and it had some pictures of houses and some rates on them. And they say, why? And they all start guessing. We'll take the guesswork out. Try and figure out how to answer the why question. Because you know what? Because that had a nice house or the rate was bigger was a guess in those days. So take out the guesswork, have a structure to answer the why question. So really, there is a great opportunity now to actually take the pace of change that's happening all around us, the fact that so many things we've had for so many years we've taken for granted, are actually a time now for us to think a little bit differently. And I think this pace of change is something that we can use a word around that I think is a better word, which is dynamic. Dynamic is always something that's positive. So think about it as dynamic. Don't think about it as everything's changing and therefore you're lost and you don't know what to do. And always approach some of the more traditional problems. We need more sales leads, whatever. But approach them with a blank sheet of paper. Don't try and do last year plus 10%. And find partners from your agencies, from your business team, from your media owners, and always make sure what you're doing is what we used to call put the headlights on full beam. How far down the road can you see? How much into the future are you prepared to look? Stick them headlights on full beam and you'll be able to see well into the distance rather than stick them on dip and we can see what's basically in front of us. And all you say and all you do will now be, as it has been for a while now, part of the scrutiny under which any organisation, its marketing programs, its products and services, any organisation today is under continuous scrutiny, particularly in financial services. There are regulations, there are all sorts of bodies prepared to sort of look at us with a degree of critical eye, and that will always be the case. So, one of the most important things is to make sure you deal with the truth. I always believe that the truth is a precursor to trust. And my one final tip actually comes from a man called John Paul Getty, who was asked once why he was successful and how he got so successful. And he said, get up early, work hard, strike oil. You don't get to do the third one unless you do the first two. So, back to the graft. Maybe some of that comes from home, but thank you for listening to my comments. Some of them might be useful, some of them might be things that you're already thinking about. But I wish you all a great deal of good luck, and I look forward to seeing some radio marketing that's a little bit different. Thank you.